think, you know, we've actually taken the approach of, to be frank, limiting it more than allowing it everywhere. So the reality is you don't know where you're going, where the data's going. You don't know what it's getting used for. And, you constantly see these AI tools popping up on, in your personal life, in every app. I don't know about you guys, but I've got this glow going around my cell phone, which kind of tells me something's listening and my conversation's going somewhere and all those good things. And I think the first important thing for me is around educating our workforces on the safe usage of AI. And it's not dissimilar to, the when social media started to become a thing in the workspace. And initially everyone blocked Facebook and you couldn't go to YouTube and all the rest of it. And then slowly but surely you could start seeing those things as a useful business tool to be applied in your environment. But a lot of it became about the education, about the safe practice of the tooling. And, if you think about something like email, some of the biggest data breaches have come through a phishing email, or somebody, a disgruntled employee attaching a file to an email, or inadvertently putting a file in the wrong location. And I think, when it comes to the safe and an ethical use of AI, first and foremost, it's about educating people on the appropriate use of AI and, being cautious not to use it. Like I wouldn't dump your entire sort of client base with all the information, or, or your customer base with PI into ChatGPT and tell me about stuff. It's, there's just certain things that you shouldn't do. And then when you start using the AI in a productive sense, once again, it's limiting perhaps the exposure, limiting how you're using it. Because I think while there is a world where you should embark on those POCs with intent and an entrepreneurial, innovative spirit, there's another world where I think you have to think about, how you're controlling your data, how secure is the platform that you're putting your data into. Has it got the right certifications? Because in a lot of ways, the security controls haven't changed. It's just a different technology platform that we're using in those space, and the fundamentals still make sense. So I think it's about that combination of educating people. So just how these things work. They're not the boogeyman. They're also not Terminator. So what are they? How do they work? What should you use it for? What shouldn't you? And then just making sure whatever platforms that you use appropriately protect, your data, your processes, and finally your customer experience.
Yeah, this is maybe where I'd say is the biggest differences across the vendors. The core models might be similar, but how you call them and the guardrails you put create a world of difference. Like we even see it at home, right? If I ask ChatGPT one thing and Dave asks it a little bit differently, we're gonna get completely different results, right? And then, if I ask the same thing maybe 3 days later, it might be different again. And so I think, you know, partnering with a vendor who understands, how AI works, how to kind of structure everything for the unique realities of the contact center, to have like that consistency that you need to avoid hallucinations, missteps, and then make it really audible and transparent and give you the confidence it's working. I think that's where like the value add really is in the vendor, right?
Perfect. Let's just quick question. SOC 2, GDPR, HIPAA, those standards, which is the most important with regards to safety, compliance in the AI world?
So if that feels like a trick question, Bryce. So, no, I think regulations are an interesting thing. Is that you need to comply with all of them. You need to figure out which ones apply to your world, and then you need to meet that compliance. And the beyond just the sort of regulatory compliance, clients, customers have expectations that sometimes exceed those regulatory frameworks of what you should and shouldn't do. I think we oftentimes in our business build these massive Venn diagrams of how all these regulations overlap and what is actually specific from one regulation to the end, just so that we can kind of distill it down to the right controls and the right guardrails. But more importantly, the expectations that our customers have. I go back to the billboard test. If we did this, would our clients be comfortable to have this on a billboard over the national highway, explaining this? And you've got to in the AI world. I feel like beyond just the compliance tick box and the SOC 2 report, which you need, and the ISO report, which you need, and the HIPAA compliance, which you have to have, you have to pass the perception test of, is this an ethical and appropriate use of this technology, and is it going to create a better client experience, or is it going to detract from it? And I think if you kind of meet all the check boxes, then it really comes down to the perceptive value of it all.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the only thing as you sparked in my mind is, I think what's cool is, as consumers are using more of this, I think there's like maybe even an excitement that you are using AI for me and effectively, right? Like, why wouldn't I want you to know a little bit more about me so you could better tailor your service to me, right? Or, right, like, yeah, I could see this actually becoming appropriate, right? And something that you want to kind of show that you're using.
Yeah, I mean, interesting you say that, and we've kind of recently done a report of, the human versus the AI virtual agent, and looking at talk times, and there's a certain novelty factor that customers are enjoying, right? They're actually, hey, are you an AI bot? That's great. Like, let's have a chat, and there is a novelty element that has kind of emerged. So I think in a lot of ways it enhances your brand, in the short term, but I do think it will become more pervasive. And we've seen, on broader topics, public sentiment can shift very quickly. So I think we're in a golden age of AI at the moment. But I think when it comes down to those ethical guidelines, those ethical conversations are going to come up, and it's important to be ready for them.
Where does the value come in a BPO helping their clients navigate AI? Be the managed service provider, for lack of a better word, the partner when it comes to deploying AI in partnership with a AI company like Lively. Is there a benefit, or is there not?
Yeah, I'd say that's almost where all the benefit is, right? Like, I think kind of just piggybacking on, somebody said earlier, they actually know a lot of the answers, right? It's their trainers and their QA team and their ops team and their TLs that know where the opportunities are, right? And so I think they being the ones to bring them to the floor to manage, to continue to develop new opportunities, like, I think the best opportunities are always going to come from the BPO. And I think where we see the future going is the BPO is going to just play a larger role. I think, today, a BPO, I find they're kind of like a Sherpa of like, here's all the tech. Let me kind of help the client decide what to do. But the client's still a little bit kind of leading, saying, yep, this is the tech I want. I see as time going on, they're going to be like AI-led BPOs where they're just going to say, this team does this stuff with AI for your benefit, and this team does that with AI. And it's going to kind of switch the model a little bit, where it's less of, which tech do you want? We could do whatever, we could support it, bring it to our platform, and we'll work on it, to we do everything AI led. And, that's where I think the value is. It's not the product itself, it's how you apply it.
Brilliant. And then I think to wrap things up, Hans, last three sentences in terms of summarizing everything that we've said today, and then hand it over to Matt.
Yeah, so I would say it's good to have friends. It's good to have people you can bounce stuff off of. It's good to kind of have these kind of platforms to chat and say you're not alone. Everyone's struggling with the same stuff. Everyone's got the same tools. But I think just having people that you can talk through things with in a very kind of pragmatic, practical environment, I think it's absolute gold. So I'm very in favor of partnerships. Love our partnership with Lively. Love our partnership with our clients, and I think there's really exciting things ahead.
Yeah, I'd say like what I'd say is it's not even just consider AI, right? It's table stakes, right? We're all using these tools all the time in our own personal life. And so I think it's about, bringing that same help to your agents and to your customers. And I think it kind of starts all from there, right? Is how do we do the opportunities that we're seeing on our personal lives everywhere else?